Kassai Cintari Sellsword was the second warrior introduced to Flesh and Blood, and today I'll explain why she represents what I believe to be peak and ideal design for the warrior class within this game. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Introduced in Crucible of War, which still stands as one of Flesh and Blood's most important releases, Kassai Cintari Sellsword heralded the arrival of dual-wielding warrior to the game. Armed with her trusty Cintari sabers, Kassai began her journey to avenge her family, and with every hack and slash, raising the funds she needs to build her army. From a mechanic standpoint, Kassai, at the time, brought a much-needed solution to the warrior resource problem of that age. Her second swing, not only was it free, but it also didn't require the first swing to hit. And then with Everfest, of course, the power-up of all power-ups for the warrior in that set's dual swing package, and the release of Blood on her hands, Kassai's incredible specialization, which gave her a payoff for all that copper. Now, despite being a Kassai main up until her ascension in December of 2023, I regularly said that Kassai Cintari Sellsword, as she existed, would be too strong in Classic Constructed. And while at the time that was certainly true, I admittedly don't know if that's the case anymore. But more importantly than simply just being fun, and more important than the fact that Kassai was a legitimately good hero, I believe that Kassai Cintari Sellsword, in terms of her overall design concept, represents peak design for what the warrior class should be within the game of Flesh and Blood. By and large, the warrior class is characterized by momentum. Relentless, weapon-based attacks that can quickly spiral out of control, pushing over-the-top damage via attack reactions. This concept of momentum manifests itself through beneficial on-hits. Hitting, in general, not only forces damage, but often furthers the warrior game plan, and makes it easier to score more and more hits. Dorinthea gets another swing and her +1 counters. Fang earns fealty and free swings, and Kassai? Well, she makes that sweet, sweet cash. With each cut, each slice, each drop of blood drawn from the opponent, warriors get stronger and are able to pressure harder. That is, of course, until they're stopped in their tracks and go back to square one. Warriors' identity of beneficial on-hits has also come, in general, with a lack of detrimental on-hits by which to threaten the opponent. See, warriors present a very mathematical problem to their opponent. Sure, the opponent may have to eat a boatload of damage to get there, but not blocking rarely changes the opponent's game plan. Furthermore, the reliance on continued and consistent weapon hits often means that warriors cannot take the same advantage of generic disruption. Dorinthea, for example, doesn't want to take a turn off to throw a CNC or an erase face, lest she risks losing her counters. And this is a factor that I think is often underappreciated by many in the community. It's not that our warriors cannot play these cards, they absolutely can, but it often comes at a greater opportunity cost as compared to many of the other classes. And in a game where marginal value matters so much, it's absolutely relevant. And it's the environment around disruption that has led warrior as a class to the state that it is in overall. Warriors cannot disrupt their opponent's game plan, but remain extremely vulnerable to disruption themselves. Any warrior player will be very aware of this pain. Have to block more than 2 cards? Hope your go again is in the arsenal, or you have agility. Your only blue just got stripped? Guess it's a single swing turn, or to have just a bad draw with all reds or no go again? Well, it's back to the starting line. Momentum erased, advantage opponent. And this is where Kassai, admittedly in both her versions to a certain degree, has been able to set herself apart from the other warriors. When Kassai scores hits, she makes coins, which stay on the table until they are used, or stolen, looking at you, Scurv. As a result, Kassai is afforded the luxury of taking an off turn and not necessarily having to hit the reset button. Have to full block or get disrupted, or want to do a setup with a nourishing emptiness, you don't have to go back to 0. But even more important than that, and most relevant to my entire argument, Kassai creates an environment in which every hit matters. And this is why I believe Kassai Cintari Sellsword to be peak design for the warrior class. She maintains the theme of no disruption, just highly efficient math-based damage, but presents on-hits that the opponent must be concerned with. Bleeding even a single damage on a weapon hit moves Kassai closer and closer to her ultimate. All of a sudden, hits have to be respected beyond simply the damage they represent. Kassai doesn't disrupt you, doesn't change your game plan in the truest sense, But she forces must-block scenarios. No way are you letting her land hits on a Spoils of War turn and not regretting it. Every single hit that Kassai Cintari Sellsword lands pushes her closer to her ultimate, as I'll refer to them today, delivering a blood on her hands, or the much less effective but equally cool Build an Army. Every hit delivered over the course of the game, regardless of how much it hit for, charges her up towards her endgame move if we want to lead into the fighting game metaphor. That's why I'm confident that the future of the warrior class must involve this type of design philosophy if the class is to remain relevant. And I believe that the minds at LSS are coming around to this point as well. Fang gets his payoff from his hits, assuming of course marks, but can also gain fealty from card-generating effects. And while he doesn't have an ultimate in the truest sense, his ability getting turned on at 3 fealty does give him an aspect of permanent momentum. Well, kind of permanent, right? Because obviously Mr. Glass Cannon over here, if he loses momentum, he's just done, and all that hard work is gone. But while Fang certainly doesn't have the permanence of Kassai, he does embrace a design in that vein, and is a signal post to, perhaps, better days ahead. For the warrior class to have any chance of reclaiming its glory, they have to do more than simply present damage. And since disruption is, yes, Assassin's thing, the only clear path forward for warrior lies in making hits count for more than simply value. Leaning into an accumulation mechanic, such as the design space held by Kassai, is the answer. Make the opponent regret every cut, every slash, as our heroes slowly build momentum over the course of the game, only to then unleash their full potential. Now, it's crucial here that we aren't getting hung up on the ultimate in terms of what the card does. As famously said prior, it's easy to make a busted card. I'm not sitting here today saying that the warrior class can be saved simply by printing more cards akin to blood on her hands. Again, it's not about the ultimate itself. It's not about what it does or how strong it is. Rather, it's about focusing on the mechanic that makes cards, like our ultimates, function. It's about having some sort of payoff for the consistency that forces hard in-game decisions. The reason the ultimate works is because of the base mechanic, which is the true potential power of warriors. The payoff is but the formality. And just think how many of the existing warrior heroes would benefit from this type of design strategy. Olympia comes to mind as a simple upskill path. He makes gold from his wagers. It wouldn't be too difficult at all to move him into a similar space. Right now, by and large, there's no true penalty from stopping Olympia from winning his wagers. But if you knew he would, at some point, convert that gold into a threatening situation, you'd think twice about letting him win. And once opponents have to start blocking again, well, Reprise would like to have a word. All of a sudden, the base function of the class, blocking interplay, becomes relevant once again, as do the hard and complex decisions, which is exactly what Flesh and Blood is all about. OG Kassai here has set the bar for the warrior class, and not just because she was good, but because she brought with her the every hit matters concept and forced interactivity beyond simply damage math. I can't wait to see more of this in the future as we see new warrior cards and new warrior heroes. Exciting times, and looking forward to the future. Thanks for joining me, my friends, and go Commando.